Hello everyone, welcome to the next DBMS tutorial. So in this video lecture we will discuss about the correlated nested queries of your first chapter of module 3. So in the last video lecture we have discussed about how what are the different three-valued logic and how do we write the nested queries, the outer query, the inner query, and we have seen the different way of using it with some examples. Today I will go with the next few topics, that is correlated nested query. It's a improved version of your nested query. Then followed by we have something called as exist and not exist. So what is this correlated nested query in the sense, if in the case if a query is been given, okay, wherein which the query is applied on two different relations, okay, and the query what you have written is of a nested query. When you write a nested query, if an attribute which belongs to a table, or I can call it as an attribute which belongs to an outer query, if it is present inside the inner query, then we call it as a correlated nested queries. Okay. So what I will do is I will go with example directly first. So I will give a correct insight of what exactly I am telling. Okay. So the requirements, what the question, first thing is the question to be known properly. So there are two tables, employee and dependent. So I am taking it from the same running example of company database what we have seen throughout the syllabus. So employee and dependent is a weak entity, as in case of your ER diagram, which depends on employee table. Means in an organization, if we are the employee, we have some dependent in with us. Say for example, our family members are dependent. So this is the details of like a dependent of an employee. Okay. So this is purely dependent on this. So SSN is the primary key and ESSN is the foreign key. Means I have just renamed it. ESSN is nothing but pointing to the SSN. So I have taken only few attributes, not all the attributes of employee and all the attributes of dependent. Only what are the attributes required to understand this question with respect to correlation I have got it. Okay. So F name, L name, SSN, salary and gender we have taken. ESSN and name of the dependent might be a father or a mother of an employee, their details, their gender and their age, so and so stuff. Now the question is, find out the names of employees, okay, who have their dependent with the same first name and the same gender. Okay, I will repeat again. Display the details in the sense name of an employee who have the same first name of an employee and the same gender of an employee if he has a dependent. Say for example, take an employee, he has dependent like 2 children and wife will be there. Okay, or an employee is having the parents, father and the mother. Okay. So what happens in that case is, if employee is working in an organization, his name is something XYZ and the second name is ABC, and if there is a father who is having the same first name, only the first name XYZ with this name also, then look at their gender. If gender is same, then display the particular employee. This employee has a dependent who has the same first name of his first name and the gender is also same. So this is the requirement. Hope it is clear. Now how do we write? See, we can write a direct query for this also, but now to understand what is this correlation between the nested queries, we need to take with the nested part itself. So I have written the inner part. So what I am trying to fetch here is, select ESSN from dependent D, from the dependent table, where F name equal to name and E dot gender equal to D dot gender. You can just see here, as I said before in the previous example, in the previous video lecture, that inner query executes first, then the outer query executes. But when there is a correlated nested query, students, we need to run this inner query for every instance of outer query. How it is, let me explain. Say for example, I have used this F name as an attribute in the inner query, but F name belongs to which table? Employee table. Employee table is been referred in the outer query, but its attribute is used in the inner query. This is called correlation. If you have this kind of syntax being given in this query, it is called as what? A correlated nested query. Okay. Now how does this executes? Because as I said, the inner query executes first, then the outer query, but in this case it doesn't happen like that. What happens is, which is the outer table? Employee table. So select, we have the names from employee where SSN in. Now what happens for each instance of this table, means for each of these rows, For each of these rows, I will take the first row, the inner query executes once. Okay, for each of this instance, the inner query executes first. So let us see how it will go like that. So first it will take this particular row, Arun Kumar, one whole thing. What is the SSN of this? 1. Now 1, is it in ESSN? It will check. We have 1 here. Okay, yes, but from dependent D, but we have a condition where f name equal to name. What is the first name of 1? Arun. What is the name of this one? The dependent, something like A I have taken. So A and Arun are not same. So automatically 1 is not being selected as an first name, because one's first name is what? Arun and Kumar. If 1 was to be printed, its dependent should also have name Arun and the gender should also be same. And your gender is same, but the first name and the first name of an employee is not the same. Okay, I am only looking for his own dependent, not for other dependents. Okay, so if one is SSN is matching with ESSN, so I have matched by using in operator, that is a multiset. If we have multiple dependents for the same employee, a father, mother and children's, in that way, so I will be having multiple values written from this, but I have only one value right now, because in the example I have taken only one dependent for 1, one dependent for 2, one dependent for 4. There are no dependents for 3 if he is not married, something like that. Okay, so first row, the whole thing executes. Second row, again takes 2, search with that, if name and age gender is same. For 2, no, it is first name is Abhi and the name is C. Both are not matching and the gender is same, doesn't matter, but name is not matching, it won't be selected. Now when it comes to 3, it never executes because 3 is never been selected at all in the ESSN, because 3 is not present here. When it comes to 4, okay, F name is Ajay and name of a dependent is also Ajay. The first name of employee and the name of a dependent is also Ajay, and the gender is also male and gender is also male. So this particular employee has a dependent who has the same first name of his. Okay, then what happens here? It gets selected, so it matches with 4 with 4, and finally I'll get the output as what? F name, L name, that is Ajay Kumar, will be printed. So this is how the correlation works. For each instance of a outer query, the inner query executes once. So irrespective of how many conditions being given in the inner query, all has to satisfy to display the output in this row. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ರೋಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರೋ ಆ ರೋದು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫೈ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದರೆ that rows details will be displayed on the output. So this way it will be collecting all the rows one by one. So this is called as correlated nested query. Okay, see, it need not that the given question what I have just told, that is display the name of employees who have the dependents with the same first name and the same gender. You need not write a nested query, you can write a direct query also, as it is, say for example, select F name, L name from EMPE dependent D, where SSN equals ESSN. I need to join two tables, I am joining, and name equals first name, okay, and E dot gender equals D dot gender. So this way also you can write a direct query for the same question what has been asked. Okay, so you might be getting confused with this E dot gender. Why I have used E and D there? Because gender is the same representation being used in both the tables. To have a clear separation between which gender I am specifying or which gender I am referring there, we have E. I have used aliasing, which I have already explained before. Employee as E, dependent as D. So E dot gender equal to D dot gender. So this way we have referred two different tables, attributes have been compared. If they had different representations like this, name and f name, need not. If both were name, then you would have got d dot name equal to e dot name in that case, if they have both the same representation. Okay. Now you might ask a question yourself that what is the benefit of using a correlation then? See, sometimes whenever we use the next coming topic, that is exist and not exist, in that scenarios you might be required to use this correlation. Why? Because it lessens the way the query can be executed in the real world, because whenever we execute some complicated requirements, we will look for query optimization. Okay. When it comes to query optimization, the correlation gives us a better hand because it reduces the problem statement into a bit by bit. Okay. As it is, first I can get this for each row of this. For each row I will be checking out the inner condition exactly once. So that is how the correlation nested query works. Next we will see with this exist and not exist functions in case of using with its nested query part. Normally we use it with the correlation nested query, if I precisely tell it. Now I have just modified this previous code into how we can use it with exist and not exist. Let me first tell what is exist and not exist. See, whenever exist b keyword being used as a function in outer query, exist expects that inner query returns at least one row as an output. If it returns at least one row as an output, at least one row or one value as an output, exist give me the boolean value true. Okay, this function returns what? The exist returns true. If nothing is written from the inner query to the outer query, then it returns false. Okay, this is what exist is. I'll repeat again. Exist, whenever the exist is used in the outer query, it evaluates with the inner query. If inner query runs and gives me at least one row of output, the exist returns true. If it returns nothing from the inner query after executing with the exist, it returns false. On the other hand, not exist will do what is the vice versa of it. So not exist will expect if something returns from the inner query, it returns false. If nothing is written from the inner query, it returns true. Okay, we'll see the example, it will be clear at that time. So the same problem statement, let me repeat again. Display the names of employees who have the same first name, same name of the first name of S with a dependent and the same gender of with the dependent. So just see that how it has been modified here. Again, it is a correlation query because I'll be using an attribute which belongs to the outer query, outer table in the inner query. Okay, so select f name L name from employee where exist. This is how you are supposed to use your exist function name. Now what happens, this exist is it's the same process of correlation for each row of the outer table or the outer query. The inner condition, the inner query executes once. Okay, now I have select star. I am not bothered about what should be matched, as in the previous case I had SSN equal to ESS and something like this. So I am not about what is matching, I am only bothered about whether there is a output written from the inner query. So where exist, I will run this select star from dependent D. I am checking where first name equal to name. Right now I am executing which row? The first row. What is the first name of first row? Arun. Whether Arun is present in the name, it will check with all the values. Okay, if it is present, then I would have gone to the next condition, the gender are same. Okay, so there are no such a case, so that it returns. Okay, what will be the output selected? Nothing. So exist returns what? False, because if nothing is selected from the inner query, the exist returns false. So automatically the Arun and Kumar will not be selected. Okay, second row I will take. That is Abhi. So again it enters the whole condition. The first name is checked with first name, that is Abhi is checked with checking with all the values of name. If it is present, there is no name Abhi with the name in case of your dependent table, so automatically it returns nothing, again false. Again for 3 also it is false. For 4, when it comes to 4, it comes here. Right now I am pointing to which row? I am pointing to this particular row. So if Ajay is present, here and I look for the gender is same, Yes it is, then display what? Same output. Okay, so this is how we can use a exist in case of writing a correlated queries. So correlation can have more effective when I use with exist and not exist. Okay, let us see one example for not exist also. So the example is retrieve the names of employees who have no dependent. Retrieve the names of employees who have no dependent. So in the previous case we are looking for dependent. Now in this case we will be expecting for no dependents. Okay, so how the query goes is select f name, l name from employee where not exist Now the inner query select star from dependent, okay, D where E dot, okay, anyhow we have a different representation. So SSN equals ESSN. So this is the query. I guess it has not been visible. From where SSN equals ESSN. Yeah. Now, how does this not exist works? Let us understand. So, what was the question? Retrieve the names of employees who don't have any dependent. In the sense, what do you mean by don't have any dependent? The SSN of an employee will be not present in the ESSN. That is what the meaning is, right? If he doesn't have any dependent in the dependent table, that says that its reference will be not in the dependent table. So in our case 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 is not having dependent, so 3 is not present here. So now I want the details of 3 to be printed. How to write a correlation with a not exist operator for this? Let us see that. So I want to display this for f name and l name from employee, okay, where not exist. Where not exist, select star from dependent where SSN equal to ESSN. Now not exist becomes true when nothing is, in case of exist we want true when something is written, false when nothing is written. Vice versa, not exist, star indicates any thing been selected, but it is true when some rows have been selected. Okay, so now I am looking for what? No dependence. Sorry, I am looking for a no dependence here. So let us go with the example directly itself. So for each row, I will take this row now. SSN is 1. So where SSN equal to ESSN is 1 is present here, S. So what happens here? It returns some values. Okay, so automatically not exist says what? False, because when the inner query returns something as an output, the not exist will give false. Exist true, but not exist false when something returns from the inner query. That means as what? For this particular row, there was a value present in the ESSN, means E has a dependent anta. Means E has a dependent. Next, I will take the second row, 2. So 2 is equal to 2, is 2 is present in the dependent table also? Yes, it is. So it returns this whole row. So again it returns false. So second row is not selected. Third row will come. Okay, when it comes to third row, 3. The 3 is present in ESSN, it is not present. Okay, so now what is written here? Nothing. When nothing is written from the inner query, the not exist gives me what? True. So it says that what now? Right now where the row outer query is pointing to the third row, that particular reference is not present in the inner query. It is saying that. So automatically what I am supposed to do now? Select the first name and last name of that particular row where I am right now pointing in the outer query. Right now I am pointing in the third row. So Suhas and Bhatt has to be selected as an output. Suhas and Bhatt. Because 3 was not present, so it returned nothing, so it gave me true. When something written, it will give me false, so do not select that row where I am right now pointing. Next, go to the fourth row. 4 is present in the query. Yes, the whole thing will be written as star here because I have used star. Star indicates it return all the values, ESN, name, gender and age. So again it will return false, nothing. So this way the exist and not exist can be used with the correlation in order to make it more effective when compared to writing a direct query for this. So you got an what exactly exist is and not exist is, the functions which are written true and boolean value as an with respect to the inner query. So because whenever we write correlation nested query, what do you mean by correlation? The attribute of an outer table, outer query, if it is present in the inner query, we have correlation. Next, if I use exist and not exist, what happens? It will return some values true, exist, nothing false. So you can use this conditions whenever it is required in case of writing the queries. Okay, so exist and not exist. Now we will see one more example of way it can be used in case of exist and not exist. So list the names of managers who have at least one dependent. Okay, so now previously what the question was answered was only for employees. Employees who have dependent and employee who don't have dependent, exist and not exist been used. Now list the names of managers who have at least one dependent. At least means at least the one, once the value of SSN is present in the dependent table. Now when I say an employee as a manager, how do I come to know he is a manager? If you know this relationship diagram, you can, so I just add this department table here also. So if you are familiar with this company database, you will be getting this easily. There is an employee table and there is a department table. Okay, how employee table and department table are linked with respect to the relation of managers. SSN is present in as MGR SSN. Okay, if an employee is a manager for some department, its SSN will be present here. So one is manager for IS department and 2 is manager for CS department. Now the question is framed such a way that it requires all these 3 table, because see, names of managers, names are present in employee table. Whether he is a manager or not, I will get to know only when I join employee and department through MGR SSN, primary key, foreign key. Then this manager, first I will find out who is the manager of which department. If this is present in the dependent table at least once, it means he has a dependent. So display whom? Arun Kumar, because he is a manager of IS department, he has one dependent, display his name, Arun Kumar. Okay. Next, same way you are supposed to go through all the rows. Now how do you write a correlated nested query with the help of exist and not exist? Let us see that. So select, I want F name and L name from employee. Okay, we want these things to be from the employee table, that is outer query, where exist. Okay, where exist. So I need to have the first condition. So what is my first condition with the tables being given? I have department table and the employee table. So first we need to have a condition being specified on this. So select star from, let me take it as department where SSN equals MGR SSN. Okay, SSN equal to MGR SSN. Okay. Next, second condition is, first thing is they are managers, and the next thing is I will use and between this and this, again I will use exist, because the two conditions separately. Select star from which table? Dependent, from dependent where SSN equals ESSN, where SSN equals ESSN. Hope it is visible. Yes. Okay, finally, yeah. Now how it is what is happening here, let us understand. So now for each row of outer table, the inner thing executes once, but in the inner we have two conditions here, and I've used AND operator, the Boolean value. So I'm expecting if our row has to be selected, this exists should be true, and also this exists should be true. What I am trying to do here is, let us understand where exists. Right now the row is pointing to the first row here. Okay, what is the first row value? The SSN value is 1. Exist, select star from department where SSN equal to MGR. Whether 1 is present in MGR SSN, it is present. So something is written, the value of exist is what? True. T is written. Now and still have one more condition, so you can write it here also. I have written in separate line. And exist again, select star from dependent now where SSN equal to ESSN. Right now in which row? The same row we are right now. Whether 1 is present in dependent table also, as it is present, it means that what? You have at least one dependent, something is selected, it returns true. Okay, so when both are true, true and true is true, then right now which row I am pointing? First row. Display what? First name and last name. So the output will be what? The first name, the last name. The first name is in that case example is Arun Kumar. Okay, next it will go on like this. Second row has been selected, is a correlation. I'll enter, select star. Now SSN is what? 2. Whether 2 is present in MGR SSN, it is present. He is a manager of CSE. He is a manager. First thing. Next, I'll check exist whether 2 is present in ESSN, as it is present. Okay. Now what is then what do what? Display first name of last name of S. That is B and P, something like this. Next, third row. 3. Whether 3 is present in MGR SSN? No, he is not a manager, so it returns false. Next, whether 3 is present here? No, because exists false. So false and false, false. So don't select that third row. Okay. Next, the fourth row. 4. Whether 4 is present in manager table, in department table as a manager 4? No. So it returns false. When it comes to the and this part, it returns true because we have 4 as a dependent here. It returns true. Any of false and true is false itself. So again this fourth row will not be selected. So final output only this. That is Arun Kumar and Abhi are the 2 employees who have at least one dependent being a managers. Okay. So this is how you need to formulate your query. Whenever a question is being asked, you need to understand when to use and what to use with the help of the given relations. Okay. So before writing a query, you need to understand the relationship between these relations, how employee is related to department, okay, how employee is related to dependent table. So if you understand the schema diagram, the inert of the schema diagram, in the schema in the sense the relationship between the entities or the relationship between the relation itself. So if you know that properly, then writing a query like this will be a very easy with the help of correlation. Okay. So the next topic is explicit sets and renaming of attributes. And you have renaming of attributes is already been introduced in some queries. Let me do it again. So what is this explicit sets? Say for example, in some of the questions they might ask you to fetch the output with the multiple conditions to be satisfied with a single attribute. Okay. Say there is a table called as works on. If you know this, as I mentioned, company database, works on is also a relation there, which was an relationship type, which was converted to an relation by using a ER mapping. Works on gives me what? The relationship between the project and the employee. That is, an employee works on a project and how many hours he is working. So it gives us this relation. So to have that relation, we have this works on table, works on. So now if they ask you to retrieve the names of retrieve the details of employees who is working in project number 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I am asking the condition with respect to employees working in project 1, 2, 3, means I am giving 3 values, 3 conditions. So in that scenarios, we can use this in operator in the where clause to have multiple conditions to be matched. See, if I didn't have this in operator, what would be the scenario where P number equal to 1 and P number equal to 2 and P number equal to 3. We need to write the multiple times this equality conditions to be matched with all the values. To say this in a simpler words, we can use this explicit sets operator called as in operator, which says that whichever SSN is with the 1, 2, 3, all 3 values. So in this case 10 is with 1, 10 is with 2 and 10 is with 3. So automatically ESSN what? ESSN 10 has been selected. Okay. Now why do I use distinct keyword here? Because sometimes in the output, if in the case if 1, 2, 3 is been once, if it is twice also, so there may be a possibility of 10 generating twice. If 10 is assigned with the same 10 with 1 and 10 with also 2 and 10 with some other project. So if the output is, if there is a multiple duplicate values in the output, to eliminate it we use distinct keyword. So distinct keyword is used to eliminate the duplicates. Do not worry much about this. I'll come back to this in the next coming sessions. Okay. So distinct SSN is what? So 10 has been selected. So this is how we use explicit. Now what is rename operator is, say for example, I am finding out something, say for example, select ESSN from some table, from some condition, and if I want to rename this output attribute ESSN as employee number, something like this. So that is what I'll get in the output. I won't get ESSN, I'll get what? EMP underscore number. So if you want to rename the attribute which is pre-existing in the relation, then you can use this has keyword in the select clause. Okay. You can also use say works on as W. So previously we have seen works on space W. If you want to rename works on as W, if you want some references, say W dot some in case of where condition as you see previously, we can do that, but one relation no problem, but the keyword as is being used whenever you want to rename the output what you are going to get as an condition being evaluated. So I have a condition being evaluated with the explicit operator and I want to rename this ESSN as EMP number. So I can use this as keyword. If you have n number of attributes, you can rename n number of attributes by using this as keyword. So this is all about this explicit sets and renaming of attributes. So we can rename the attributes by using this particular word as. So any attribute can be renamed. So if you have some more attributes, comma, that attribute is renamed as what? So it will come next to this. So this way you can keep on renaming the attributes by using this. Okay. Anyhow, we already seen aliasing in the from clause. Works on space W means W can be used further. The previous example we have seen employee as E, dependent as D. So if you give employee as E, it's same as employee space E. They both are the same. It's all about aliasing. They can also be used in renaming the attributes by using this as keyword. If you want to rename the attributes in select clause, use as. If you want to rename the table names in the from clause, you can use as, or you can directly specify the space and the new name. Okay. So this is all about renaming of attributes. Okay. Thank you all.